Hi, welcome to Focus on Liberia. I am the West African correspondent, Edward Amara. Welcome to this special weekend edition, which is not dealing with any latest happening on the continent. Rather, we want to dive down into history and maybe come down or come with you with the with some of our leadership we experience on the continent. Today, we start this show with watching at 10 absolute worst African dictators. You see, most often Western countries tend to take to rate our leadership based on statistics, which is absolutely good because statistics speaks reality. Statistics actually speak reality. And maybe they tend to read reports about what our African government present to them, either on the internet or based on the submission that when they come, they ask for a report, they tender into them. Which is most of those information from African countries, leaders have been used to falsifying those information. And when they falsify them, they tend to give you worst breakdown to we as Africans. When we are within those countries, we feel the pain, we feel the punch, we know exactly what is going on. You know, we read on the web, we see different things compared to exactly what we are feeling. So I think we should be like the custodians of those information, and we should be the people who should actually tell the West, not those in leadership, but those who are being governed. Not those who are governing us, but those who are being governed. I mean, we, the commoners, should be the people that should actually tell the Western world exactly what is happening. And since our most African government give them falsified information, so they tend to turn lies into reality and present a very different picture or give them impression. I think we are living with these people, we know them, we understand them, and most of the time analysts tend to base their rating, their presentation about these African countries, the way how they are. You see, African leaders should be, I think we the Africans should be in better position to come with those ratings. Why? Because we live with these leaders. And we feel what they do, and we know exactly what they are capable of doing. We know the statistic figures that are true and those that are actually very false. And we tend to understand all of these things because of what type of impression most of these people give them. And since those impressions have actually been wrong, we should understand that in Africa, it is us, it is those who have been governed that should actually give complete information about the type of leadership that we are feeling and what we should do. You see, many countries in Africa actually have been privy to what form of government, and most surprisingly, some of the Western dictators didn't even have to overthrow. Most of those dictators actually that have undergone, or Africa have undergone into, or most African countries have undergone into their hands, they did not even overthrow any sitting government to take power. Rather, power was given to them, but they tend to abuse it, which is actually wrong. And we all know dictatorship is one of the forms of many government that actually we have. Even to present these circumstances, we are seeing dictatorship prevalent on the continent. So many African countries take, maybe many African leaders take office as democratic leader. Some of them, they actually take office as democratic leader. But oftentimes, the hunger for power will steer them apart, and they tend to do things the other way. So today we are going to see 10 worst African leaders who actually have led this continent, led our countries, and what actually they did, and how can we rate them, and why should Africa should be very conscious about which type of leadership that we should adopt. And maybe we should also have interest in our civic responsibility. Normally, we should, I think government, like certain schools, should actually start teaching people civic rights and their responsibility into institutions. And those things should actually start from the very beginning, when the child is in their primary school, elementary, junior secondary, before ever they get to college or universities. When they are now given absolute or careful information about this type of leadership, they can be easily, because when you are being taught civic responsibility into these schools, even before ever you approach your junior secondary or senior secondary school, you are now inculcated with the idea of what is patriotism, what is non-patriotism, how a good citizen should behave. And you're also taught about your civic responsibility. So you definitely understand that the state owe you a duty, but you also owe the state a responsibility. But unfortunately, we have found out that there are certain citizens who do not even know their right. They do not even know their responsibility. If you even ask them what type of governance are we going on, they don't know. All what they have is democracy. In fact, they cannot even adequately assess their government. And they do not even know what type of leadership should actually govern them. I think these things have been, the political culture, the manner in which African leaders disseminate this information to those that they are governing is actually very poor. So when we watch at this thing, why not start having, okay, let's just forget that you're a science student, you want to be that, but at least civic responsibility should be taught in school. People should know their civic right and what is their responsibility and how can they judge the state on its performance, and why should they involve into elections, why should they involve into electing their president, why should they even participate into public decision making. Some people are not adequately informed, and sometimes an uninformed mind is definitely a handicapped mind. Some people are actually mentally handicapped because they are not given careful quality education. Those education can easily help them how to construct and deconstruct certain mentality. Unfortunately, since African leaders do not want them to be exposed to certain things, that is why we have seen people can even support bad governance. Sycophancy is the end of the day, because these people are not taught. They do not even know who should they follow and why shouldn't they follow this person, and what are some of the norms that they should actually watch at when somebody comes to them that I want to become your president, your councillor, your MP, house, I want to represent you to the Senate. They don't know how to capture these people. So welcome, let's start. We start from the rear end. We start from the 10th person. Let's see. We will still start in Liberia, one of the worst leaders that Africa or the African continent has undertaken. We get down into Monrovia or Liberia. We talk about Charles McCarthy, is it McCarthy or McCarthy Gangetilo or Charles Gangetilo. Life story is akin to that of a movie. When you watch a Charles Taylor story, it's akin to that of a movie. He became the 22nd president of Liberia on August 2nd, 1997, and served until August 11, 2003. What did he do? Before his presidency, Taylor was accused of embezzlement, which was very perfect. He escaped to the US and was caught and jailed. He escaped to the US and was caught and jailed. Maybe some people will disagree with that, but that is what history told us, and that is what is a kind of different person. But he was caught and escaped. Of course, it is evidently based that he was actually in the US in jailing. Like the star of the movie he soon escaped again. Then from jail, he returned to Liberia. That is why they are saying Charles Taylor's life was like a movie, akin to that of a movie. And he became a president. But before he became president, he was accused of embezzlement. He escaped from Liberia. He went to the US. He was caught and jailed and returned to Liberia also. And he was the 22nd president, or he became the 22nd president of Liberia on the 2nd August 1997, when it was Liberians that voted him on a coerced election after the war that was fought. So we are also seeing that before his presidency, Charles Taylor was accused of embezzlement. So if people were actually informed, how can you entrust your power into the hands of a man who has been popularly accused, and a fugitive, in short here, a fugitive, ran away, spent some time into the US, he came back with, how can you entrust your power into such man? That man is corrupt. He was involved into embezzlement, mismanaged the Liberian economy, he escaped and went to the US. But it's because people are not taught civic responsibility. Some people even don't read their history. Some people don't even take into calculation what should they know about their countries. What should they know about even the district where they are staying, the town? What should they? There are specific things that you need to know, understand, analyze them for your own benefit. But if you fail to know them, they said, when good citizens do not vote, bad leaders are elected. If good citizens are not involved into making certain decisions, we have bad leaders who will definitely become elected into certain position. So in 1997, okay, he was elected as president. His presidency was marked with allegations of illegal trading of blood diamonds, those affected into Sierra Leone, purchasing weapons and recruiting child soldiers to aid his rebels. On August 11, 2003, he resigned. Maybe I can say involuntarily resigned after being pressured by the US government in 2012. After years of trial, Taylor was convicted of 11 charges, not totally related to anything in Liberia, but everything that he committed into Sierra Leone. That was what, because Liberia said, we are not going to implement the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Of course, it was understandable, and it is still understandable because rebels are still into power. So how can you pass a legislation that will indict your person and send you into prison? So, okay, these charges include act of terrorism, then murders, rape, sexual slavery, enslavement, and enlisting child soldiers. So Taylor is actually being captured as the 10th on the list of worst African leaders on the continent. Today he's still in prison anyway. He's still in prison. He's in the United States. I mean, in the United Kingdom, and he's there in prison. Let's see Mobutu Sese Seko. Some people say Mobutu Siseko. Let us see Mobutu Siseko, who was actually another president that was probably one of the worst on the continent of Africa. So, where was he? Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC. Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC. So, Mobutu Siseko born as Joseph Desare. Mobutu Sese was born as Joseph Desare, served as president of the Democratic Republic of Congo from 1965 to 1997. From 1965 to 1997. After seizing power in a coup. He seized power into a coup. Mobutu, while in office, tried to boost the economic growth by nationalizing the Katanga copper mines, and by also trying to attract foreign investors. He even changed the name of the country to the Republic of Zaire. The Republic of Zaire. Instead of Democratic Republic of Congo, it was known as the Republic of Zaire. So initially it was the Republic of Zaire. Now we are seeing Democratic Republic of Congo. Mobutu, while in office, tried to boost the economy, as I was saying, by nationalizing the Katanga copper company, and tried to attract foreign investors. He even changed the name of the country to the Republic of Zaire. However, no economic growth occurred actually under him. No economy. Instead, the country suffered from hyperinflation, increasing debt, and extreme currency devaluation. That was what Congo was suffering. Democratic Republic of Congo. Why citizens were suffering? This dictator built his personal fortune from the coffers of the country and from corruption. In May 1997, he was ousted by rebel leader or by rebel forces, and 3 months later, he died from prostate cancer in Morocco. Morocco is actually in North Africa. So that is he's captured as the 9th person as one of the worst dictators on the continent of Africa. That comes to our late grandfather, Robert Gabriel Mugabe. He was actually in Southern Africa. Okay, Robert is in Southern Africa. That is where we span Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe is in the southern part of Africa. Robert Gabriel Mugabe, a man known for quite a long time on the continent prior to his death, he was very controversial anyway. He actually gives certain controversial comment. He served as the president of the republic since 1987. Since 1987, that was when he served as the president of the republic till he was being overthrown. From 1987, that man was in the helm of affairs. Still, he was overthrown in 2017. In 1987, Mugabe was appointed president of Zimbabwe. He was appointed as president of Zimbabwe, not elected, but appointed as president. After the constitution was amended during the 1990s, the economy was suffering from inflation, but the government officials were raising their salaries up. Stupid, callous, very wicked. An act of stupidity sometimes turns to wickedness. Your people are suffering, those who elected you, or those who use their powers to appoint you. But government, why the government keep putting up their salaries? Citizens were suffering. They were suffering from inflation, and everything just went down the dwindle. Everybody was just enjoying who were part and parcel of the government. The people were suffering, the citizens were suffering. Let's start growing opposition from among the people, increasing debt and fall in the standard of living, living, especially for the Zimbabweans. Mugabe won elections in 2002. In 2005, it is alleged that he won the re-election with the help of corruption and violence, and in March 2008, he reached election. He was also re-elected. Okay, then Mugabe refused to give up his seat, which led to violence outbreak. Again in 2013, election throughout Mugabe's rule, anyone who opposed him was subjected to intimidation, arrest, and persecution. We are having one strong man under him. They used to call him Monga Tangora. Monga Tangora was actually the opposition leader of Gabriel Mugabe, or to Gabriel Mugabe regime. Till his death, he was being intimidated, tortured, and by the time they overthrew reborn Mugabe, when Grace Mugabe was interested to come into power, Grace Mugabe is actually a South African, but she was married to Robert Gabriel Mugabe. And by the time Mugabe's first wife died, Sarah, Grace Mugabe was serving as a kind of secretary into Mugabe's office. So Mugabe chose her as one of his maybe side chick, and the side chick became his wife. They have around three children. But when Robert Mugabe was so old, people were actually accusing Grace of being the power behind everything that was happening into Zimbabwe. And in the first place, she was in a war veteran, and she was not even, or she's not even a pure Zimbabwean, rather a South African, but she became maybe a Zimbabwean but married or whatsoever. They provided that their constitution stated so. So when the old man was so old enough not to understand what was going on, people were taught that everything that was happening into Zimbabwe was actually under the auspices of Grace Mugabe. So that was when the people fell so bad. He even fell out with Emerson Mnangagwa, known as the crocodile, who escaped sometime, and when he returned, he facilitated the coup d'etat, which Mugabe was placed under house arrest when people were seriously demonstrating against the person of Robert Gabriel Mugabe, asking him to come back. But even Emerson was not free. If you watch at Zimbabwe history in 1918, when Emerson led a campaign against the people of Matabeleland, around 2,000 people were actually killed. It was termed as ethnic cleansing. Up to now, he has not been able to actually clean his name. So let's come into West Africa. In West Africa, we see General Sani Abacha. We are now watching at Nigeria. He's also termed as one of the worst dictators on the continent of Africa. A Nigerian Army general served as de facto president of Nigeria for the years of 1993 to 1990. That is 5 years. After he seized power in 1993, when he overthrew the government of Chief Ane Shonkina, through a decree, he gave himself absolute power. Unlike other Nigerian dictators that led to their countries' political reign, Abacha increased Nigerians' foreign exchange rate. Okay, and also it reserves, reduced the national debt and reduced the inflation rate. However, his government has been accused of violating human rights. And Abacha and his family were accused of lining their pocket with money from the country's treasury. Abacha was ranked as the fourth most corrupt world leader in history in 2004. The fourth most corrupt leader in history in 2004. Up to now, most of his wealth abroad are being seized and they are given to the country. And we should also be very careful with this Westerners, because sometimes they encourage dictators to come into power and they use those words to facilitate themselves. So let's see Marcus Nguema. Marcus Nguema. This is another worst dictator. He was another worst dictator on the continent. He is actually from Equatorial Guinea. Francisco Macias Nguema was sworn in as the first president of Equatorial Guinea. On the 12th of October 1968, he served in the position until his death, until his administration was overthrown in 1979. By his nephew anyway. After gaining office, he instituted the death penalty as punishment for those who threaten the president or the government. Death penalty. If you threaten the president or the government, the death penalty is instituted against you. He appointed himself titles such as the unique miracle and Grand Master of Education, the unique miracle and Grand Master of Education, science and culture. Crazy dictators are no stranger to history, and the African continent seemed to as its own share. Okay, let's see. Nguema ordered the death of those who were spectacles to search, so that at the end of his rule, almost all the educated class had earlier been executed or forced into exile. So have you seen? Anybody who tends to challenge his authority or the government, the death penalty is instituted. So meaning, in short here, opposition was not allowed. Because having an opposition is like constituting a legal group to challenge or confront the sitting power. And since he never wanted anybody to confront him, so he instituted death penalty for anybody who thinks and feels that they are going to challenge either the president or the government. So it's like the government is the president is the government. So anything that you do within that particular frame, you are liable to death. So do you see how African leaders are worst? African leaders, so we are actually worse. So that was for Equatorial Guinea. So let's see. We also come into West Africa again. Sekou Touré. Some people call him Ahmed Sekou Touré, became the president of Guinea in 1958. And served until 1984 when he died actually in power, and Lassana Conte took over. Similar to other dictators, after his election, he made his party the only legal party in the state. Fantastic for himself, but not for the country. That is why Guinea has never tasted democracy, and we have seen on several occasions, even that so-called law by a professor by law who came into power, Alpha Conde, tend to still follow the yardstick. And now we are seeing what is happening into Guinea. Mamadou Doumbouya took over after he overthrew his overlord, that is Alpha Conde. Yesterday, a solid attempt was made to escape with that Musa Daddy's camera, but now he has now been caught and returned to prison or jail alongside the three who we are actually alleged freed by a kind of armed gang who stormed the prison. But the man has distanced himself. He claimed no responsibility of having orchestrated his unlawful freedom. According to him, he trusts the Guinean justice system, and he believes that he is going to be exonerated into court because he's totally innocent of what happened, the killing that took place in 2009. He is totally innocent. And those demonstrations actually happened in 2009 when he had the intention of contesting for election. So people gathered at that particular field to demonstrate against the person, asking the dictator or the former or the soldier not to contest for election. In retaliation, people were being raped, killed, and other sexual violence actually occurred in the field. He was being accused. 3 days later, somebody made an attempt of his life. Throughout this, he has been living in Burkina Faso. When Doumbouya took over, he was invited to come and face justice. He came. Maybe he was thinking that Doumbouya will use the corrupt justice system to exonerate him, little knowing that he was actually in for good. When he came, they saw how robust, how prepared, and how absolutely resolute the judges were to ensure that he's being convicted. He pretended at least he's suffering from dementia. So throughout this while he has been in prison. So I don't know if somebody is suffering from dementia, why do they want to free him? But he claims no responsibility of having orchestrated that particular solid attempt yesterday to free him and others. Actually, he was being caught, and yesterday Guinea retaliated by closing the entire international borders that they share with other countries until those fugitives were being caught. Now they are back in prison. So let's see. Touré aimed to make Guinea a socialist country, and those who were in opposition of this were persecuted or exiled. Those who dare to make their voices heard. So that was why he aimed to make Guinea a socialist party, declare Guinea a one-party state. Anybody who thinks and feels that should not be the state or the type of pattern of leadership that Guinea should follow, definitely you are liable to be killed. And having realized that, most of the people actually were executed, just like what that Equatorial Guinean government did. Anybody who challenged the president or the government, death penalty. So in short, here, a socialist state. Anybody who thinks and feel that Guinea shouldn't have a socialist state, you are taken as an enemy of the state and liable to public killing. So those who dare to make their opposition public, we are sent to what detention camps or visit by the secret police. You can easily be visited by the secret police, and nobody will know who arrested you, which prison are you sent to, or who is trying to judge you, and those people can easily be lost into action anyway. So finally, an estimated 50,000 people are believed to have been killed under Touré's rule. That is why an estimated 50,000 people. Touré was friends with and offer asylum to the like of what Kwame Nkrumah when he was being overthrown. He actually came into Guinea. Former Ghanaian president Modibo Keita of Mali, Malcolm X, and Stokely, all of those people were actually good friends of Touré. Let's see Said Barre. Said Barre was another dictator, probably in one of the worst dictators, and he was actually in East Africa, that is Somalia. Somalia now is divided. We have Somaliland, we have Somalia, because of public, especially like Al-Shabaab is definitely operating in Somalia. Let's see Said Barre. Mohamed Said Barre served as the president of Somalia Democratic Republic from 1969 to 1991. Rather long time. After the assassination of Somalia's second president, Said Barre led to a military to seize power. He led the military to seize power. He appointed himself ahead of the Supreme Revolutionary Council. Subsequently, as with all other dictators, he gave himself absolute power. During his reign, Barre raised the literacy rate among Somalians, eradicated clientelism, and nationalized a number of industries to foster economic growth. That was what Said Barre did. So, however, no growth was seen under Said Barre. No growth definitely was seen under Said Barre reign, and he has actually been described as an oppressive dictator. His leadership was actually described as an oppressive dictatorship government. So, okay, he was jailed. Okay, so as an oppressive dictatorship, that is he persecuted and jailed, tortured those who opposed his rule, and disregarded human rights. That was he tortured, jailed for anybody who opposed his rule, tortured and jailed them. So he had wells, he prepared something like that, poisons. He can easily give you poison, nobody will know how you managed to die. So he used those things to ensure that he orchestrated a plan without having known what actually killed this person. So African leaders, we are actually worst, and we should be very careful. So let's see another one. The third on the list is Omar al-Bashir. Omar al-Bashir. Al-Bashir is of the Sudan. So Omar al-Bashir became the self-appointed president of Sudan on October 16, 1993, after overthrowing the elected government in a coup d'etat. Of course, upon taking rule, he dismantled all political parties and instituted the Islamic Legal Code. Islamic Legal Code, that was what he did. He has since been elected as the president of Sudan 3 times, each time with allegation of corruption, fraud, intimidation, marring the elections. These are some of the things. In March 2009, a warrant for his arrest was issued on charges of murder, extermination, rape, torture, and intentionally attacking civilians, but has not been arrested since. However, he was not arrested since by the International Criminal Court of Justice, but he has been overthrown and currently in prison. But there is war going on in South Sudan. Unlike most dictators, al-Bashir has been credited for stimulating economic growth in Sudan. The country, however, is undergoing high rate of inflation since 2012. That country has actually been undergoing high rate of inflation. So let's see Hussein Habri. Hussein Habri is from Chad. Hussein Habri is from Chad anyway. Now, although he is longer alive, Hussein Habri ruled Chad as president in 1982 to 1990. That was 8 years period. Hussein Habri ascension to power was aided largely by France. This is why sometimes these colonial masters, they should be very careful how we deal with them. And the United States of America, under his rule, human rights abuse became the norm of the Chadian government. He created a secret police force that tortured and killed opponents. Habri's government practiced economic cleansing, and the secret police killed by forcing detainees to put their mouths around car exhaust pipes, and they were sprayed with gas or bomb. Sad. So he created a secret police force, that is one, that torture and kill his opponent. Habri government practiced ethnic cleansing, and the secret police killed by forcing detainees to put their mouth around the exhaust of the car, and they were sprayed with gas or burned alive. Sad. In May 2016, he was sentenced to life in prison on charges of rape, sexual slavery, and ordering the killing of 40,000 people. So finally, on our list, we check to Idi Amin, General Idi Amin Dada of Uganda. Now they're having another dictator. Poor histories have been said, and those histories are carefully followed by other leaders. On January 25, 1971, Amin Dada overthrew President Milton Obote, whom he served as commander of the army. He served as the president and military officer. He served as the president and military officer of Uganda from 1971 to 1979, only 8 years, where he became one of the worst dictators. When Amin took over, he told the people that he would serve as caretaker until the elections took place. He also promised to release all the political prisoners. That was what he said. Like a typical politician, he went back on his word and announced himself as the president in February, a month after the coup. Throughout his rule, it is estimated that 500,000 people were killed, summarily executed. His victims include former President Jani Luwum, journalists, lawyers, members of his own cabinet, and many other prominent members of the society. It is said that the bodies of those he killed were dumped in the River Nile. That is what it is said. So sad, and we should understand that these people need to be carefully handled, and we should understand them. So we have another dictator who we cannot go without having him drawn into this program. Yeah, that is Theodore Obiang Mbasuku, and he is actually from Equatorial Guinea. Since the president was overthrown in 1979, he came into power, and he has never released power. Sad. The story of Equatorial Guinea is fact that a very sad one. It is a story that clearly shows how statistic figures can so be deceptive in case of Africa. It is also a story that clearly shows how one demon can destroy an entire country. Equatorial Guinea is a tiny country, less than 2 million people by population size, yet one of the most oil-rich countries in Africa today. Statistically speaking, Equatorial Guinea is one of the richest countries in Africa with a GDP per capita income of $21,000. In reality, however, Equatorial Guinea remains one of the poorest countries in Africa today, with over 70% of its population living below the international poverty line. Equatorial Guinea has one of the highest under 5 mortality rate in the world, with over 20% of its children dying before the age of 5. There is poor education, poor infrastructure, poor healthcare, poor everything, all because of the actions of one greedy man and his crazy son. His son is the vice president anyway. So Theodore Obiang Mbasuku, the president of Equatorial Guinea, is Africa's longest serving ruler. He has ruled Equatorial Guinea since 1979, when he overthrew his own uncle, Francis Macias Nguema. That is why they are started having the same name. In a bloody coup d'etat, Theodore Obiang and his crazy son, Theodorin Obiang, who is in line to succeed his father, are some of the worst people you will come across in Africa. They continue to live in luxury, 1,000 foreign bank account prostitutes, or 100 foreign bank accounts, prostitutes and properties all over the world, while their poor countrymen continue to wallow in extreme poverty and hunger. You see, Theodore Obiang is a brutal dictator, I think he and his crazy son, Theodorin, deserve at least life imprisonment with hard labor for all the crimes they have committed. But they are leading the country. So sad. So sad they are leading those countries, and these people do not even have the intention to live. So we cannot also live without discussing something about Cameroon. Paul Biya of Cameroon is one of the most dangerous dictators in Africa today. The most dangerous dictator in Africa anyway. Unlike other dictators mentioning, Paul Biya doesn't play dirty in public, and because of that, the international community doesn't rank him among the worst. Paul Biya assumed office on November 6, 1982. Yes, almost 4 decades ago, he has systematically consolidated power to the point where no opposition has a chance to win. To the outside world, Cameroon is democratic, but the average Cameroonian, there is nothing like democracy in Cameroon. Paul Biya eliminates his enemies in the dark and makes life hell for the one he forgives. Sad. He sometimes organizes mock elections. He sometimes mock elections that are actually laughable. That is what he sometimes organizes to give the impression that he is democratic. He is one of the most corrupt leaders in Africa and continues to systematically play on the intelligence of the fellow countrymen in the international community. He is 84. At least on January 2018, but not ready to let go. But Paul Biya wants to actually die as president, because to him Cameroon is his debt, is his and he alone. So for currently the age of Paul Biya, is totally unbelievable. The man is 89 years old. What does he expect to do for Cameroon if he cannot do it when he was younger? So we are seeing a very sad event of flooding into that particular country, and we pray and hope that these people should not continue to lead our country. So why do you know if it is a bad president? Why has he been voted and he's passing along the street? Why do they die to touch him and see him? Some people, that is what they are saying. So stop calling president. Some people can even say stop calling them dictators, because had it been bad, he couldn't have been elected. The worst thing about Africa, to end my program, is that we hate corruption, but we actually love the corrupt. Maybe it's because of poverty, illiteracy, and ignorance. And loving the corrupt will make us to survive at the end of the day. Thank you. It's been me, Edward Amara, Focus on Liberia, West African correspondent, coming to you with an analysis on 10 worst dictators the African continent has ever experienced. Join me next Sunday for another story. Thank you.